Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another evening of Learning Islam with Masjid As-Sabur, Sacramento. My name is Haazim Rashed. I am the resident Imam of Masjid As-Sabur, Sacramento. And with me is Imam Omar Shareef, the former Imam of Masjid As-Sabur and a greatly knowledgeable brother on the religion of Islam. Tonight we're going to be discussing the Eid and a little bit about the month of Ramadan. So let us get started, as always, with the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I openly bear witness there is no God but the one God. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. And I openly bear witness that Muhammad is his slave, servant, and apostle. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings be upon you. Brother Imam, last time we began with some verses from the Quran, Surah 2, Ayat 183 through 185, and they basically outline the basics of Ramadan.
Yes.
Today, let's make sure we talk a little bit more about Eid and its traditions and how it's done. You know, one of the things that we want people to understand is that Eid is a reward after Ramadan.
Yes, that's correct. Again, for this viewing audience, we'll just reiterate the time of Eid, which comes at the first day of Shawwal, which is the 10th month of the lunar calendar. And just the tradition it began with our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who began this tradition of the Eid celebrations. The time of the Eid celebrations are from sunrise until noon, to midday, and
that's for the prayer, right?
That's for the prayer.
Yes.
Yeah, that's for the prayer. We're talking about the Eid celebration, the breaking of the fast.
Yes.
Yes. And that. And it was tradition of the Prophet, peace be upon him, that we start as early as possible, or the earliest as one can. And for us here at Masjid As-Sabur, I think we start around 8 o'clock.
Yes.
Traditionally, yeah. So, alhamdulillah, that's the celebration. And usually, as we stated last week, that it can be from 2 to 3 days, the celebration. And the whole point of the celebration is during the celebration, I should say, we have activities, we have food and music and song and games for the children and adults. Adults like to play too. And we also would have something like the Quranic recitation and games for the children and so forth of that nature. Sometimes skits, sometimes performances. It's all about celebration. And usually outside we have some sports activities, that and other outdoor sports. So it's really just a big celebration that we try to go on, and it's planned for 1 day or 2 days or 3 days. It's not like we stay up 3 days in a row. We plan each day.
Yes.
And for a few hours every day, just to adhere to that tradition.
Now let me get this clear. On the Eid day, you eat before you come.
Yes.
You take a bath.
Well, there are several things that we do in terms of that. First, as you say, you eat in the morning, then you have to take a complete bath, and then we wear the best and the finest clothes that we have. And then also, if you're able to, it is preferred that you put some sweet scent or sweet smell oil, pure oil on yourself, if you're able. Some people can't, for allergic reactions, can't have that. But if you're able, that's part of the tradition also. So yeah, those are the things that we do to prepare for the Eid.
Now, I know that the prayer is early on the Eid day, before noon.
Yes.
Are there any traditions that occur before the prayer?
Well, even before that day is what you call the zakat al-fitra
Okay.
or the sadaqah fitra, which is, those are two different types of charity that we give in the tradition of Islam. One basically, zakat is for it's for the needy, for the poor, and sadaqah is usually traditional for the operation of the masjid and things of that, secular things that we need to do. But it's either labeled one or the other, and that tradition is that you give that particular charity before the prayer. Preferably, you want to give it days before the Eid day, but you have up until the prayer that particular charity is considered accepted for the Eid. It doesn't mean you can't continue to give charity, but it's tradition that you should give it before the prayer. That makes yours count for the Eid. The purpose of the charity is really that we get as much as we can, and it's a fund that's distributed to the poor and to the needy, and it should be all exhausted. When the funds, once you gather the funds, they should be given out, and all the funds should be given out by the end of the celebration, which is the 3 days. All of it should be gone, and so that's traditionally the way it usually goes.
Now, why did they establish this tradition?
Again, it's so as to make it so that those who are less fortunate could have relief on that day, that they could celebrate the day without the worry of having to figure out how they're going to feed their family, where they're going to get the money, and so where they're going to get whatever they need. So the whole point of that is to give relief to the poor so they can be relaxed and can enjoy the Eid right along with everyone else.
It's interesting because I think that during the time of the Prophet, they would give grains and food out.
Yeah, it was called well, according to the tradition of the Prophet, you had to give a sira, what they call a seer, which a seer is, and it would be in, which is a measure of weight, and you would give it in wheat or grain or rice or whatever the staple of that particular country or community was. You try to give it in that, and a seer is equivalent to a kilogram, and a kilogram is in weights and measures is equal to 2.2 pounds. So each family member, every family member per household would have to give that a sira, and usually it was 2 or 3 siras for each family member per household.
Wow.
Well, it sounds like a lot, but it's not really, because you're talking about 2 pounds of rice, 2 or 3 pounds of rice, which is not a lot, but you would give that, and that would help the poor and so forth. Now today we don't give rice and wheat and barley and so forth. What we do today is cold hard currency.
Okay.
And for our tradition, Masjid As-Sabur, we give $10 per family member per household.
Yes.
The key thing here is if you can afford it.
Okay.
No one is to take their money that they need to pay their bills, money they need to feed their family. You don't take that money. You might be in a position, a recipient of the zakat or the fund of charity. So that's the whole point, is that you're doing this. In fact, it's continuing the spirit of the Ramadan, because during Ramadan, when you are fasting, when it's time to eat, it is tradition of the Prophet that you eat a modest meal, that you don't go out and buy steaks and big elaborate meals. The tradition is that you eat a very modest meal, actually the meal of a poor person, and that's what we're supposed to eat every day of the days of Ramadan. And the spirit of the Eid, the spirit of the Eid charity is in that same vein, that we are going to give to the poor so that they're able to celebrate along with everyone else.
Now I will warn everybody, we say this, but if you go to a masjid on the Eid day, you're going to find some of the fanciest, richest foods you will ever see being served and overindulged in.
Mm.
And we have to be careful about that because we can make ourselves sick very easily because during Ramadan your stomach shrinks.
Mm.
And
in some cases.
Well,
hopefully in most cases.
I have to agree with you on that one because I've heard brothers who gained weight during Ramadan. I don't understand it.
Well, let's make something very clear about that because we don't want anyone to be confused about the purpose of Ramadan. It is not to lose weight. That's not the purpose of Ramadan. You don't. That's just a side effect. That's a benefit that comes along with the tradition of fasting. You're going to lose weight if you do it correctly, but that's not the purpose. The purpose to it is to enhance our moral and spiritual beings. It's to get away from the things that have distracted us during the year. That's taken away from our spirituality, taken away from our morality. And this is for us to get back closer to that, actually to get closer to God, get closer to Allah. And by doing such, you can only improve your own life.
Now, just to add to that, there are certain traditions of Ramadan that are specifically designed to do that. The first is we are recommended to read the Holy Quran, 1/30th of the book, every day during Ramadan.
Yes.
And the book is broken up into those 1/30th so we can do it every day.
Yes.
The second is we add extra prayers in the evening called Taraweeh, or the prayer of resting.
Yes.
And those range between 8 and 20 rak'ahs over the course of the prayers after Isha.
And let's talk a bit about that real quick and before we go back to the Eid, because those are not mandatory. They're not obligatory. You don't have to do that. It's not something that that you are obligated to do. It's something you do because it's, first of all, it's the tradition of the Prophet. He did it. He did it, and we know if he did it, it's a benefit to us. He was what we call the perfect example. He followed the religion the way it was given to him, the way it was revealed to him, and he followed it to the T. And his life, his whole life, really is a testament to the fact that it's a benefit. So that's the reason why we do it, because we want the same benefits that he accrued it. We want them to accrue to us. So in that tradition.
Well, it's interesting, during his lifetime, when he started to do the Taraweeh prayers, he initially did them in the masjid, and then after 3 nights he stopped and did them in his home. So it wouldn't be considered a required prayer.
That's right.
Now, when Omar, may Allah be pleased with him, was the caliph, he started the tradition of congregational Taraweeh prayers in the masjid. But, today, some communities have it every night, some communities don't. But the tradition is very simply, we do more devotional activities as a part of our Ramadan actions.
Yes, I think we don't want to make the mistake or fall into the mistake that some of the religious communities of the past history have done. And whereas our Quran kind of makes reference to them, to that particular idea. They said they imposed the rules and laws on themselves that God never imposed on them. And we don't want to get into a thing of where now we're starting to impose these rules and regulations that Allah never imposed on the community of the Muslim. And understand, when we say community of Muslims, we're talking about everybody, really. We're talking about all of creation, really, because everything and everybody is Muslim. We all submit to God. But that's getting off into another.
Well, the interesting thing is, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, always said, the religion is easy.
Yes.
And then we look today, and a lot of people make this religion very hard.
Make it very hard. That's right. That's right. As a matter of fact, Allah tells us in the Quran, practice this religion as much as you can.
Yes.
Right there is a mercy from God, saying you're not under any restrictions or any hampering. In fact, Allah says in the Quran, I don't want this to be difficult for you. This should be easy for you. And when he says, do as much as you can, that takes care of it. So that means it's all up to us as individuals how deeply we're going to involve ourselves into the religion of Islam, because the more, Imam Muhammad once said, he said, religion is not difficult. He said it's deep. that means you got to go deep to get it.
Well, you know.
And one other thing he said, and I got to say this because we got to make sure people understand. He also said that institutionalized religion is not religion at all. And what does it mean by that? Institutions are supposed to support the human being. It's supposed to support community. But anytime the institution begins to dominate your life and it begins to dictate to you, now you're going out of the realm of religion and you're into something else. So he said religious institutions is institutionalized religion is not religion at all. That don't mean we throw it away. That means we try to use it for what it's for.
Well, you know, I think the other tradition is what the relationship of the believer in Islam has to God is a direct relationship.
That's right.
It is not a channeled relationship or a directed relationship. We honor our religious leaders, we honor our religious scholars,
That's right.
but we also recognize that they are human, which is why in every act that we do, even in something as simple as a prayer, if your religious leader makes a mistake, you have the right to call him on it.
Or correct him, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Well, you call him and
him.
remind him,
Yes.
and then he corrects the behavior
That's
and
right.
continues.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Yes.
But we all have to know our religion well enough so that we can do that.
That's right.
Now back to the Eid, so we can just get this through.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Eid al-Adha is actually approximately 60 days after the Eid al-Fitr.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it's almost like they come right after each other, as some people would say, in being analogous to the Christian celebrations in terms of their impact on the children and gifts and everything else like that, except we get 2 of them every year instead of just 1.
Well, you know, being raised as a Christian,
yes,
and having been involved in all of those holidays, one thing the Western culture is not lacking in is holidays. We got a lot of holidays here in America and in Western culture. So, but in Islam, we just have basically those 2. Now, there are some cultures, they have created holidays.
yes,
And they have these holidays in their tradition, but that's basically out of their culture that these holidays have come about. It is not part of the tradition of the Prophet. The only 2 days that the Prophet recommended for us to celebrate are the 2 Eids, and they are around the 2 most important activities of the Muslim. That is Ramadan and the Hajj, the pilgrimage. And both of those deserve reward if you're able to complete them or in the process of completing them. So that is understandable and it makes sense.
Well, you know, it's interesting too, when we talk about the Eids, if you are on Hajj, you don't make Eid.
No, yeah, right.
You know, only the people who have not gone for the pilgrimage make Eid for the Eid al-Adha. The people who are on Hajj, they're just doing the rituals that they have to do to complete it. So it's just interesting to me because they were having the Eid celebration at the same time we're doing the tawaf of the Kaaba.
Right, right.
The circling of the Kaaba.
In each one of the major cities that you travel to, there's a tradition in each one of those cities. Is that correct? Now, our Imam here, he has been to Hajj, alhamdulillah. He is al-Haji. So I know you would, and I pray that one day I'll be able to make that trip myself, inshallah. But you do understand the whole system of the Hajj.
I can't say that I understand the whole system.
Well, I mean,
there are so many traditions.
Yeah, you experienced this, what I mean.
That are around the Hajj. You could study it for your whole life and still learn more.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, as I tell people, you know, when you see the Kaaba for the first time, you have to have your prayer already memorized. Because you know, everything that you plan just sort of goes out of your mind.
Yes.
And the thing that's so amazing is it's not that big.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wanted to mention something about one aspect of the Eid also, and that's another tradition that we have for the Eid, and that is when we greet each other, the greetings on the days of the Eid. At the time of Eid, when Muslims greet each other, we say Eid Mubarak.
Yes.
And of course, Mubarak translates as from baraka, or for blessings.
Yep.
The many blessings, and we know only blessings come from God. So when you offer the Eid Mubarak to your brother or your sister who you're addressing, you're saying to them, you're praying that Allah will give you continual blessings and rewards for having gone through this process that is called Ramadan. You're saying just continuously, endlessly extended blessings. That's what the Mubarak means.
Eid Mubarak, yes.
Now, there's also a tradition of some who, when they return the greetings, you say Eid Mubarak to them, and they may respond by saying Eid Kareem. Now, I never understood that because they're not equal greetings. Now, the word Kareem is a beautiful word. It's one of the attributes of God. In the word Kareem, it means graciousness and kindness and goodness, and you can just go on and on and on. But what you're saying when you extend that greeting back, only Allah, only God is the embodiment of those terms. When we use that term, or so you have some people whose name is Kareem, and when you, what that person is saying, most of our names, we're saying we aspire. We want to be this. We want to work so that we can exhibit whatever that name is or whatever that word is. And that's what. So if you give me the greetings to say Eid Kareem, what are you saying to me? Are you saying you need to aspire?
Well,
you need to grow. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I would interrupt you for only one thing.
Well, please do.
During the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him, they only used the term Eid Mubarak.
True.
And the tradition in Islam is whenever you're given a greeting, you at least have to give the equivalent greeting back or a better greeting.
Yes. And let me qualify what I said, because it's not meant to say that someone intends to say something that is lesser or insulting, if you will. That's not the intent. And I'm not suggesting that. But what I am saying is that when you say Eid Mubarak and then you don't reciprocate that with a similar Eid Mubarak, you're giving something lesser than what you should give. And the Quran says that when a Muslim greets another Muslim, that he should give a greeting equal or greater
or better
than the one that you have received. So if I say Assalamu alaikum to you, you will respond to me,
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
See, and that's a whole nother thing. Then I'll have to figure out a way to top that. No, I'm just, alhamdulillah. But yes, that's the point I wanted to make about that particular. And again, I'm not saying that people, those Muslims who do that, they're doing something wrong, or but I'm just saying
it's a personal preference.
It's a personal preference, yes.
Because when we look back at the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they only said Eid Mubarak.
That's it, Eid Mubarak,
which is the blessed Eid.
Yes.
Now, the other thing that's interesting about the Eid has its own charity for Eid, for the Zakat al-Fitr. That's its own charity, which is separate and apart from the regular zakat of 2.5%.
Yes.
So it's interesting that is there specifically to bring relief to those who are in need.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that it's important to point that out, because we would not want to leave the impression that this money, because sometimes the Eid is when you get the most people, the most Muslims come out, and you have a packed house, and everyone's paying their zakat al-fitr, or their zakat al-sadaqah, Eid al-sadaqah. So now you have this big bank of money, supposedly, and we wouldn't want to leave the impression that money is going to pay for other things. It should be going to give to the needy and to the poor. That's the purpose of it. But so that, like you said, the money that we collect during the year, the yearly tax, if you would, is something very separate from that.
Well, see, the other interesting thing is, in a lot of communities, not necessarily ours, the zakat, the 2.5% of the net worth, is also given right around Eid al-Fitr.
If you have to give, some people can do that. Others got to give it incrementally.
Well, it's interesting because we've had discussions in a lot of communities are reluctant to join together because it is when they get their largest contributions.
Yes.
And we have to look out for that. But again, we keep our eye on God. We keep our eye on the purpose that God gave us, which is He ordained or prescribed this fast for us, and He ordained or prescribed this celebration for us, and we do it understanding that we are simply trying to serve Him.
Yes.
And so as we get ready for this, we want everybody to recognize we as Muslims are, one, excited, two, grateful, because this is a blessing for every Muslim all around the world, and we thank Allah for it.
Well, just think for 1 minute, Brother Imam, if the whole world would take 30 days out, what that would do.
I'm not even going to go there. It's time for us to go. As I said, Masjid As-Sabur, Sacramento, 4926 15th Avenue. This is our new facility. Please come out and join with us. Jummah prayer begins at 1:30 p.m. on Friday. We also have our loaves and fishes feeding on the fourth Sunday of every month at 10:30 a.m. And we also have our board meeting at 8:30 a.m. on every fourth Sunday. Every first Sunday, we have our community meeting at 11 a.m. Come on out and join with us. If you have questions, please email us at masjidassabur.org, or you can give us a call at our phone number. Again, Brother Imam, thank you.
No, thank you, Brother Imam.
And audience, thank you as we close with the greetings of all the prophets from Abraham to Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings be upon you. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.